Hello, everybody. All right, I just want to make sure my audio is working good. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. All right, well, Serious Survivor here, and this is my first live stream on YouTube or any platform, really. So just learning the ropes this first time. And today I want to talk about a few things, and it has to do with the upcoming election. But first, I was talking to a colleague of mine at work the other day, and he asked me a couple of questions. And one of the questions I thought was a little humorous, but I'm going to share them both with you. Is the first question he asked me is he knows that I'm a prepper. He knows that I, stockpile supplies and things like that, that I prepare for, something bad that could happen. And he asked me, he said, how stupid are you going to feel if nothing ever happens? And I just looked at him and replied to that. I said, probably not as stupid as you'll feel when something does happen. But he asked me a second question that really is where my prepping has, I've sort of shifted gears a little bit because of what's going on in the nation. He asked me, he said, what are you exactly prepping for? And 2 years ago, it would have been a completely different answer. It would have been a lot of possible natural disasters, could have been anything, nuclear war. I've always considered myself what I call a general prepper. I try to base all of my supplies that I can, utilize them in multiple scenarios or multiple situations. I do have a lot of supplies that are, specific to certain situations like radiation detectors and protection such as that, like the one that we're going to give away on this cast today. And so now, though, I answered his question. I told him what I'm prepping for now is basically November 3rd and what comes after. I think we all know, we all see what's going on. We all see the trouble, the chaos in our streets. We see the division. We've got a political division. We got all types of division in the U.S. And I don't think the U.S. has ever been as divided as it is right now. And this is a very trying time for our nation, for our country, for everyone in it. This is going to be a difficult election. It's going to, in my opinion, change the history of America forever, no matter which way it goes. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about a few things that we can do to prepare for this, because it's not just the election night, the election day that's going to be, tumultuous. It's going to be the time after the election, up until when the president actually takes office or is inaugurated again in January. And that's going to be a total of 78 days. So 78 days of possible unrest from the election until the president is actually sworn in. This could be an extremely difficult time. A lot of channels that I watch and a lot of the articles that I read, people are actually predicting this, the riots to get worse during this time and possibility of even civil war beginning during this time. So we're going to look at a few things today that we can do to help us better prepare for that. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the giveaway that's going to happen at the end of this cast. It's the full CBRN gear that I have here. I'll be showing here in a little bit. And I was originally going to give that away at 50,000 subscribers. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and give it away today. There's never a better time to give out protection like that than right now. And once I reach 50,000 subscribers, I actually have two of these kits exactly the same. I'll be giving away that second kit again at 50,000 subscribers. So there'll still be the 50,000 giveaway. Just going to have an extra one tonight. And one of you guys here, one of y'all that are watching this live cast is going to be one of the ones that gets it. So let's get started. First thing I really want to start talking about is things that we can do to prepare. Now, there's some subjects that I'm not really going to get into, like firearms and physical conditioning. Those are subjects that I'm going to talk more about in an upcoming video that I've got coming out this week. But one of the ones I want to start with is medical. Now, medical and health, it can be extremely different from one individual to the other. You may have one person that's in perfect health that is highly resistant to colds and the flu and such as that, and someone else who gets sick very, very easy. So this basically comes down to knowing our own limits, basically knowing what affects you personally. And that's just as far as personal medication goes. Now, personal medication, if you're on medication that you take daily just to, basically keep you alive, then you're probably going to have to speak to your doctor and try and get a little extra of this to put in reserve so that you have some in case of a bad situation. But when it comes to first aid gear, there's a lot of first aid gear out there that's available. I mean, a ton of it. You can pretty much get anything you want first aid wise on the internet these days. And first aid is one of those subjects that a lot of people have the gear, but they don't have the training. And I'm as guilty as that of anyone else. I can attend to simple wounds, cuts, and, minor scrapes, breaks, things like that. But I'm definitely no surgeon. But studying first aid, reading up, and maybe even getting, certified in some type of first aid is going to be beneficial in any situation, whether shit hits the fan or not. It's still going to be a beneficial skill to have. Skills, like I always say, they never go away. Gear, money, that all goes with time, but skills, something you have that'll always stay. And the ability to treat people with first aid is going to be an extremely valuable skill to have in any type of difficult situation. So that's we're going to get more in depth on all these subjects that we're going to talk about in the video coming out this week. But one of quite concern, and that's something I've been seeing a lot of people talk about, and it's an upcoming food shortage. It's being predicted that there's going to be an upcoming food shortage. And that can be a very dangerous thing for a lot of people. One of the things I want to talk about with food, with storing food, is canned goods, that type of food, versus long-term food storage. Now, with this election being the primary focus pretty much on everybody's mind right now, I mean, there are other things going on. We do have natural disasters. We got the fires going on over in the West, on the West Coast, and that's very detrimental to those people out there. I understand that it is, and, my heart goes out to you for those that have lost anything in that. But prepping for what I'm talking about here for this election and for the 78 days after it, that is possibly going to get really rough here in the U.S. I do have long-term food storage, the 25-year, the Wise, the Mountain House. I've got a little mixture of both. And I do have those, but what I'm really stocking up on now is more along the lines of canned good, dried goods, and things like that. Things that I would normally eat. And one of the reasons for this is I'm on city water where I'm at. For those of you that live out in the country, you may have your own well and you don't have this problem. You may have access to water, directly. You don't have this problem. But if the grid were to go down and if my social services were to be interrupted here and I lost water, it's going to be much more difficult for me to prepare these freeze-dried meals that require water than it is to open a can of canned goods that already have the correct saturation of water in them. So for this particular instance, I'm preferring the cans over the long term, and that's just simply because of the water factor. Now, if I do have to bug out from my location, then of course the long-term food supply is what I would carry with me. And that due to basically the weight, the weight of the food. It's hard to carry around 20 cans of, canned goods, but I could carry around 20 packs of freeze-dried food pretty easy. And I have multiple packs in my bug out bags. So that's one of the things I prefer as far as the food storage goes. But I do recommend, even though some of the people are talking 78 days of chaos after the election, I'm thinking more like 90, because on that 78th day, when the president is sworn into office, those that are rioting, they're not just going to suddenly stop. It might even get worse. So I would definitely carry my storage or my supplies to try and stretch them out further than that, at least 10 days to a month further than that. And that's what I'm looking at doing. I think I'm pretty good on most everything, but my two boys that live with me, because my oldest two live in South Carolina now, and my youngest two live here with me in Michigan, and they're big boys and they eat a lot. So it takes a lot to feed them. So I have to actually stockpile a lot for them. Another thing that we want to take into consideration too is the other things that we saw disappear when COVID hit. Toilet paper was one of the first things that's gone. Blew my mind. I was like, I didn't know people, needed that much toilet paper. But, it became hard to find. You couldn't find toilet paper anywhere. And same with the bleach type of supplies, the cleaning supplies, things like that. They became extremely difficult to find. And then we saw a lot of price gouging on this. Think of the cost of the masks that people are wearing now. I remember, 2 years ago, you could have went into a Home Depot, Lowe's, and got you a big box of those masks for $5 to $10. Now they're $2 to $10 per mask. So that's really, went up in price. And then, that's an extra expense for a lot of people if you live in an area like I do. I had a lot of masks just because I had a shop before, so I had multiple dust masks anyway. So it really hasn't affected me that much. But someone that's having to buy a new mask every day just because you can't go in a store up here without a mask on, then, that's an added expense to someone who's of low income. So these household goods, the things like that, think about buying long-term, something that's going to last you 3 to 4 months past election day, because no matter which way this election goes, it's probably going to get violent. We see that right now. Everybody participating in the riots and the protests and everything else, they're saying it. So why should we can't disregard that. They're telling us there's going to be violence. So this is something that we have to be, prepared for. So household goods, cleaning supplies, soap, shampoo, laundry detergent. I have a dishwasher. And his name's Johnny. No, I have an actual dishwasher, but, I buy the big tubs, that last me several months so that I don't have to go out and, buy things at the store every other day. I always try to buy in bulk when I can, not because it's just cheaper, but that way it just limits the times I have to go into town and purchase all these items. So I purchase a lot of times when I buy groceries about once every 2 weeks. And that's just to stock up on the things, to keep my stockpile going, to keep it rotated out, to keep it fresh. But I'll always buy something extra. And a lot of times that extra stuff is just cleaning supplies, maybe an extra big pack of soap, so I don't have to worry about that for a while. Things like that. It's the little things that can add up that, could really help out in the long run. And the best way to determine what type of household goods that you need to stockpile is, first, if you watch the news, they said toilet paper was going to run out, and it ran out. They're saying that food is going to be short here coming up, and it's already getting short. I see it here. There's less in the store. I mean, it's not a shortage yet, but there's not as much there as there was a few months ago. So pay attention or think about the things that when this COVID first hit, and if you were in one of the areas like I am, that we literally were locked down and stuck in our homes, the things that you ran out of, the things that you would have rather had to help you out a little bit more. Those kind of things will really, really help us out a lot in the end. Another thing, the timing of this. And this is something that we have to factor in. For people that live in a rural area, this may not be as big of an impact on you as those who live in an urban area or downtown in a city or something. And that's the fact that winter's coming. Now, if you live, out in the woods, then it's going to be pretty easy for you to cut wood, to build a fire, to do the things you need to do. But if you live in an apartment building and you're downtown in a major city and the power goes out, how are you going to keep yourself warm when it's 10 degrees below zero? How are you going to keep your family warm? And that's some of the things we have to think about too. And that can be a difficult situation if you have to bug out. And people talk about bugging out a lot. And, bugging out in itself, me taking off out my house with a pack on my back and hitting the woods, that's great in summer. But in winter, when there's 6 to 12 inches of snow on the ground, and when the temperatures fall below zero every night, then this can be a deadly thing. And it's something that we really have to factor into any type of bug out plan that we have, and also into our gear. Because the best preparation, in my opinion, for the cold weather is the gear. Knowledge, of course, but you're going to have gear that can keep you warm, gear that can build and maintain fires, things like that. So winter coming is going to be a It's going to be difficult if the situation gets worse and social services really do break down. Another thing that we want to prepare, and that's sort of two things in one, it's financial and also paperwork. Financial is one of those things it's difficult to prepare. I mean, what do we do? Do we go pull all of our money out of the bank right now? Well, that wouldn't be a problem for me because I don't have much there. But for a lot of people, they've got money tied up in 401ks. They got money in investments. They got money in IRAs and things like that. And it's going to be hard to access that money. And if there were an EMP or grid down, because a civil war is the perfect time for an attack from another country or an attack from within. Don't rule out the possibility that forces within the United States would set off an EMP to affect the other side. So it's a possibility. And that's where the financial aspect of this becomes difficult. A lot of people will invest in gold and silver, and those are good investments. I believe that gold and silver are great investments if you can afford them. Silver is fairly affordable. But if you've watched the prices of gold and silver over the last few months, they've gone up. I mean, it costs more to buy gold and to buy silver than it does now. Now, one of the things that we have to worry about with gold and silver, obviously, is if anyone knows you've got it, then you're already a target, before anything happens. So it's one of those things you want to do secretly, I guess you would say. Gold and silver are good value. Gold, obviously, worth a lot more by weight. Silver, a lot less. But if you're thinking about using these as a barter item, what we have to take into account is people aren't going to have change. If you need those 4 cans of green beans that somebody's got, and all you've got's a 1 ounce bar of gold, you think they're going to give you change back? No, they're going to say, well, that's the price now, when you could have got that for a 1 ounce bar of silver, maybe. So the financial aspect is going to be so much different for everybody, depending on your finances. Some people live week to week. I don't live much past that myself. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, oh, I'm going to get $10,000 worth of gold tomorrow, because it's not going to happen. Some people have that ability, some do not. So each situation, as far as financial goes, is going to be different, but it is something that we need to put at least, a little bit of thought in and try to prepare yourselves so that if something does happen, the last thing you want is something to happen and you have to evacuate your city and you've got no money, no way to get out. So you've got to keep a little bit put back, just a little bit, or have access to a little bit, because at the very least, you're going to have money to get out of the area that you're trying to bug out from if it comes down to that. Now, another important aspect, and this is going to be very important if there is some type of EMP or some type of grid down. This is going to be extremely important, and that's having your paperwork. And when I say paperwork, I mean, if you own your home, you need a printed copy of that deed. You need the original copy of that deed. The vehicles you own, have your titles to your vehicles, the titles to any other type of vehicles, whether it be airplanes, whatever you may own. Keep these together. Birth certificates for you, for your family. Court documents, such as child custody documents. The last thing you want is somebody contesting the custody of your child and you can't defend it because there's no grid. There's no access to these papers anymore. So all of the important papers, the important aspects of your life, then I keep all these. I have a small briefcase that I just keep all of them in. They stay there all the time. And if I ever have to bug out, it's just something I grab and I take with me. And I'd like to know everybody's thoughts on all of this down in the comments. And I'll be reading all those later on tonight as I can, because some of your thoughts are going to be in this next video that I got coming out, because I'm sure there's going to be some great ideas there. There always are. Always are. All right. Got to talk about a couple of more things before I get into the giveaway and talking about a different subject. The next thing I want to talk about is a bug out plan. Now, of course, bugging in is the definite way to go if that possibility is there. If that possibility is there, I'm not going to leave my home here. I'm going to stay here. If the power's on, the water's on, I'm staying here as long as I can, because this is where my supplies are at. This is where the heat is at. This is where the running water is at. So for me to leave it it's going to have to be more than, a whim. It's going to have to be a definite survival, get out of town situation. So bugging out is going to be different depending on where you live. For me, bugging out is going to be extremely difficult. And the reason I say that is, well, you guys know I'm from South Carolina and I'm in Michigan right now, just working a job here. So if I'm bugging out due to what I believe is a permanent situation, then I've got about 772 miles to travel. And most of that's going to be through the Appalachian Mountains. Hopefully that can be done in a vehicle, but there are only so many roads through the mountains. Blockages, stop traffic, things like that. It's going to make that very difficult. I've been planning several different routes, and that's something I'm going to talk about in a bug out video coming up pretty soon. But for me, bugging out, I break my own rule. I always said earlier, don't have a bug out location no more than 50, maybe 75 miles from your original location if you can help that. And here I am sitting at 772. But that's my own, my own doing. And I'll make it if the time comes. But there are some things you can do to always be prepared. Always be prepared. And this might seem like a little overkill, but people that know me know that I actually do these things. And one of them is I break kits down into a few different categories. I believe I've got what's called an auto kit for my vehicle. And this contains everything from jumper cables, a spare serpentine belt, an oil filter, a tire plug, a little tire plug kit, also a can of Fix-A-Flat. Then, of course, I've got a toolbox in there with, a lot of random tools that I could do, minor work to my vehicle with. Of course, also a spare tire and a jack. But an auto kit is something that I keep in my car at all times that will help keep my car functional if it has a minor breakdown somewhere. Then we have a second type of kit, and that's our EDC, our everyday carry. Now, for some people, everyday carry is a little more than others. For me, it's basically my firearm, blade, my cell phone, a little solar charger, and a little keychain. I have a little container on my keychain that I keep matches, a fire starter, fishing line in. So it's a cool little setup. I'll be showing that later. But I keep that on my keychain. So, that's my EDC. Some people have more in their EDC. Some people have less. But that's your everyday carry kit, your everyday carry, what you carry with you all the time. Then I have a get home bag. Now, my EDC stays on me. My auto kit stays on me. My get home bag, or GHB, or a lot of different other names and acronyms that people will call it. But this is a bag that has enough supplies to last me for about 2, maybe 3 days to get me home if I were stranded away from home. And that stays in my vehicle all the time too. Recently, due to the current events of the world, I've actually started bringing my actual bug out bag, my long-term survival bag, and I'll put that in my vehicle every morning and then bring it in the house every night. So I have a lot of different supplies in my vehicle for the situation that, anything goes wrong, then I have enough supplies to at least keep myself and the people that are with me alive for a few days and possibly a little longer if necessary. And it may seem like a little overkill because that is a lot of gear to keep in one vehicle at all times. But if I never need it, then no big deal. But if I need it once and it's not there, of course, then that's the biggest deal in the world. So when we talk about bugging out, an important thing is to make sure your vehicle is taken care of. Make sure your tire pressure is good, your oil's good, all that stuff. Make sure it's running properly, and keep your gas tank topped off the best you can. But the most important part of actually bugging out from an urban area is planning. And that planning is, where are you going to go? That's the first step, is determining where your bug out location is going to go. Now, if you don't own property anywhere else, like outside the city, up in the mountains or anything like that, it can make this choice a little more difficult. So that's something that really needs a lot of thought before anything happens. And if we just hit the road, and say, well, I'm just going to head south, and I just drive south, maybe it's going to be all right. But if I have no destination, how am I going to know, where it's going to be okay for me to stop and, set up camp, basically. So this takes a lot of planning. Doesn't cost any money to plan for bugging out. It costs for the gear, but for the actual plan, it just takes time. And some of that time is actually getting all of the maps that you can get your hands on. I have more maps than I can probably carry. Maps of every city, town, state, maps of every state, maps of the entire U.S., maps of counties. So, and I have maps, detailed maps from the path here in Michigan all the way back down to South Carolina. So that gives me the ability to look at these maps and plan more than one route. You don't want just one route, you need multiple routes and branches on each route. And that's why paper maps are so important, in my opinion, is because this gives you something you can carry with you. If I'm relying on the GPS on my phone, then, if the grid is down, eventually my phone's going to die too. Maybe I got a solar charger to charge it or what, but my GPS isn't going to work if the satellites aren't working. I don't want to rely on electronic devices or devices that could fail. Maps don't fail. They're there. As long as you take care of them and don't damage them, then they're going to be there and they're going to function properly for you. It all boils down to your ability to interpret them and to navigate in the wild if necessary. Now, of course, when you talk about bugging out, you need your basic survival skills. I think everybody's probably heard this a million times, and it's true. We got to be able to purify water. We got to be able to make fire from scratch. We got to be able to build shelter, defend ourselves, to navigate the land with or without a map and compass. The map's important, and it's going to be hard to find your way without one, but without a compass, it can still be done, at pretty, I don't want to say easy, but it can still be done. I have a video on the channel on how to navigate without a compass, and it's a pretty decent video. It's really fast paced, but it shows a lot of different methods for determining your direction that you're heading in. And as long as you have a map, then you'll be able to find your way using those methods. With a compass, of course, it's going to be a lot easier. But we don't want to also downplay the fact that, it may be easy for me to read a map and compass, but it's not going to be easy to cross that mountain on foot. So, physical conditioning is another aspect. This is something we have where we don't, we're either in shape or we're not. And that's just the way it is. I'm not in the best shape that I've ever been in, but I'm not in the worst either. And that's something that I'm working a lot more on, is physical conditioning and getting myself in better shape. I just turned 50 last month. So, I got to really work at this a little harder than I did when I was 30. But that's something that, we can do now. We can develop a bug out plan now. We can look at multiple routes to get us to where we want to go, determine our location. We can do all that now. This shouldn't be something that we wait until an event occurs. It's too late after the fact for most of this stuff. At that point, people are just going to be running for their lives. And you don't want to be one of those people. You want to be one of the people that is already prepared, and one of the people that have made it to their location and have secured their family and their loved ones. So it's very important, the planning aspect of this. You can have a warehouse full of gear. You can have the best bug out vehicle in the world, but if you don't know where you're going or how to get there, then none of that's going to really matter. So planning ahead of time is one of the most important aspects of prepping in general, no matter what you're prepping for. Prepping without a plan really isn't prepping. Now, looking at the last section of what I was discussing here about the election coming up. And I guess right now, the most concerning day that we have to think about is November 3rd, the actual day that voting is going to take place. Now, I don't personally think the rioting is going to stop because it's election day. I anticipate it getting worse. I anticipate people possibly even attempting to shut down polls to stop people from voting. There may even be violence at a lot of these polls. And I'm not trying to be negative on that. I'm just being realistic about it. And I'm saying it because, be aware that this is possible. It's going to happen. So the best thing to do as far as preparing for that day, if you're going to vote in person, is to begin with, know where your polling establishment's at, know where you're going to go vote at. Drive there now. See what routes are there. See how many routes there are, avenues out of there. possibly look at your city map and determine multiple ways out of there, because for a rural area, this may not be as big of a problem. But if you think about some of these cities that are burning or have burnt, that riots are still going on, that there's still civil unrest, they're not going to stop. This is going to be a prime day for somebody to make a statement. So this is going to be a day that, I hate to say it, but I expect violence. I don't want it, but I expect that it's going to happen on this day. The police are not going to be able to protect every establishment, every pole. They're not going to be able to protect that. So there's some steps, you probably should take to make sure that you take care of yourself. And the first one is, don't go alone. Try to go with a group of people, 2, 3, 4 people, but don't go alone. That makes you an easy target. And as we've seen from a lot of the news clips and a lot of the videos online, the easy targets are the ones that are getting attacked and beaten, hurt, and worse in some cases, a lot worse in some cases. So don't go alone. Know where your poll is at, where you're going to go vote, and drive around that area a couple of days ahead of time, today, tomorrow, ahead of time, so that you actually know the area. If this is in somewhere you voted hundreds of times, or I don't want to say hundreds of times, but somewhere you voted before, you may already be familiar with this area, and you may be very familiar that you don't need to take that step. But for someone that's, not really familiar with that area, it's not a bad idea to always visit it first before this event occurs, to visit it and, get to know that area a little bit, so you know more than one way out of that area. Because at this point in time, the last thing you want to do is get stuck in traffic because of some blockage of the road, whether it be a protest or whatever. But you don't want to get stuck in traffic, because you're vulnerable at that point. You got vehicles behind you, beside you, in front of you, and you're basically a sitting duck. And this is going to be a very difficult day for a lot of people, I do believe. All right. All right. All right, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. This is my, like I was saying earlier, my first live cast, and I'm hoping that, you guys enjoyed it. No, it's a little short, but we're fixing to get into the giveaway and talk about a couple more things on the channel. But I have a video that's going to be coming out this week coming up, and it's going to talk about all of the subjects that we just talked about, plus a little bit about firearms, self-defense, and physical conditioning. And it's going to be a lot more in depth. I just wanted to really get the ball rolling today and get people thinking about it. And I also wanted to read what everybody writes in the comments here, so that maybe, you guys know something I don't. You can tell me some things that maybe I didn't think about. And I learn as much from the comments as I do from a lot of my research. So I really appreciate all of them. So the 2 things about the channel that are coming up. The first thing is, we're going to do a giveaway here in a minute. It's going to be an old-fashioned style giveaway, because I don't know any other way to do it on this live cast. But the second thing is, I'm still giving away another CBRN kit, just exactly like this one, at 50,000 subscribers. We're going to have a lot of good videos coming up. I got a lot of interesting subjects. I've had a few people contact me about collaborations, and I think that would, be nice. And, some good subjects to talk about. But the way that I'm going to give away, first though, before I give away, let's look at what this kit includes. The first is a set of chemical rated gloves. And those are size medium gloves. Size 10 chemical rated boots. These all, heavy duty, very heavy duty boots. Excuse me. A Tyvek suit. This is one of the good suits. It's not one of the paper thin suits. You see them on Amazon, eBay a lot. The paper thin, the little suits, paint suits, basically dust suits. This is a Tyvek suit. It's more of a plastic type of material. And, it's pretty thick. And also got a video that I'm going to be putting out on how to properly put one of these on. This is also a size medium. So this is basically a medium kit. And size medium would be, someone shorter than 5'10" and taller than 5'6", weighing in anywhere between 150 and, less than 200 pounds, most likely. I'm sort of guessing at those numbers, but that's what it looks like to me when I take these out and look at them. All right. So you're going to get those three things to start with. Also, radiation detector. This will detect beta, gamma, and X-ray radiation. Does not detect alpha. And alpha does pose a great threat. We know that. We got the three basic types that would come from some type of nuclear device or nuclear explosion, and that would be your alpha radiation, alpha particles, beta radiation, and gamma radiation. Gamma radiation is waves, not particles. Alpha and beta are particles. Now, alpha cannot penetrate human skin, but it can residually, cover, say, an apple. So I could have alpha particles on an apple, and I take a bite of that apple, ingest those particles. Now I've got alpha radiation in my stomach. So it is dangerous. It's something that we do want to be aware of. And if you're in that type of situation, never drink unfiltered water, and always wash thoroughly with hot water and soap any food or things like that you can. Make sure that it's clean, boiled, and all properly. But beta will penetrate the first couple of layers of your skin, so it does make it extremely dangerous, and that's where you see a lot of the lower level radiation burns. And that's going to be the most common type after a nuclear blast, because the gamma is instantaneous and it's not residual like the other particles are. The particles actually attach to things and stick around. The gamma radiation travels in waves until its energy dissipates, but it's very energetic and it's very damaging. The gamma radiation is what is going to actually mutate the cells in your body. And it does this because it has such a short wavelength that the radiation itself will knock protons and neutrons out of the nucleus of atoms, thus converting them into other elements. And that causes irreversible mutations within your body. So gamma is very dangerous. If you're exposed to gamma, then it's could be pretty bad. But anyway, radiation detector. And the last part of the kit, CBRN, MSA, CBRN gas mask. So this is a MSA. Those of you that are familiar with gas mask, you know that MSA is a pretty good company. They're one of the world leaders when it comes to making CBRN equipment. And you'll also have a filter with this too. This is a 40 millimeter thread. So any type of filter that's a 40 millimeter thread, which is your standard NATO thread, will work on this. But a word of advice on that is you do run across a lot of 40 millimeter on the internet that are what's called 40 millimeter GOST. Those are Russian 40 millimeters. They were 40 millimeters in diameter, but the thread pattern is slightly different. Yeah, you can crank it down and you can make it work, but in the end, you're just damaging your mask. So make sure they're 40 millimeter NATO if you're going to have, if you do win this mask right here. Now, the mask itself is a small to medium. So it came with the kit, so it's part of the kit. And also, it will all be included in this government issue. Basically, I think this is more of a civilian type of first responders NBC PPE kit. So we'll have this bag here, and it will contain all these goodies that we just looked at. Now, I don't know I've been thinking all day, how am I going to give this away? Because I said on the earlier video when I talked about giving this kit away, I had said that, I was going to look back at the past videos and see who commented, and there was a process that I laid out. I don't really remember it right now, but there was a process I laid out. But I haven't put out a video in a while. And I wanted the people that were here tonight to be the ones that are entered in this giveaway. So the only way I know to do it is I'm going to write down a number between 1 and 200 on a piece of paper. And everyone, please only guess once to begin with. Unless nobody gets it, we'll do it again. But only guess once and type into the comments a number between 1 and 200, and I'm going to write a number down right here. So that way, once everybody has had a chance to comment, then you'll get that number. I mean, we'll look at it. As soon as I find a pen. Okay. Write down a number right here. All right. So let's see. Okay. Nobody yet. Oh, there's a couple people really close. Couple people really close. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No. Oh, it'd be hard to go with the closest guess because I've seen 3 people that's put the number before and the number after it. All right, so let's run it again. Everybody put in one more number. Thanks, Willie. All right, let's do this. Let's do it another one, but between 1 and 100. Make it a little easier. This way, somebody's gonna get it. And I'm gonna write down a number right there. Thanks, Mike. What's up, bro? That's my brother up there, founding father of 1776. That's my younger brother. Oh, hold up. Somebody got it. Let me go. All right. It is the number, as you can see right here, is, well, that's backwards, but it's 52. The first number was 115, and the second number was 52. So I saw somebody type in a 52. Marla Boyard. I hope that's correct. So Marla, you have won the kit. All right. The way that, let me make sure everybody can hear me. The way that you can claim it is to email me. What I will do is I will comment after this post. I will reply to your comment. Marla, let me write your name down. So all right. So Marla, you won. You guessed the number 52. You get the kit. I will reply to your comment later on this evening after the live stream. I want to read through a lot of the comments and all. And I'll give you some information on where to email me at. And that way we could get this thing out to you. Probably be shipping it out next Friday when I get paid, because it's going to be a few dollars to ship. But I'll be shipping it out next Friday. So you've won the kit, and congratulations. And thanks to everybody who guessed on that. Thanks a lot. So congratulations, Marla. I heard that, Michael. All right. Well, I want to say, I know this, a lot of live streams run long. We've been going about 45 minutes almost here. And I wasn't sure how long it would last, so I didn't, try to put too much in it. I wanted to test the waters and make sure that I was able to technically do this from YouTube with the equipment that I've got. I know my webcam's not the greatest in the world. I got it on Amazon. It said it was 1080 HD. Not really sure if it's living up to that. May have to get another. But if you guys liked it, then, let me know in the comments, because I'd like to do more of these and talk about some different subjects. And I really want to interact more and answer more questions that people may have. So I just want to say thanks a lot for watching. I really enjoyed it. For my first cast, I enjoyed this a lot. It was a lot of fun, and the giveaway was a lot of fun. And maybe every live cast we might try and arrange at least a small giveaway, something, to make it enjoyable at the end of it. But thanks a lot to everybody. Thanks for the positive comments. Thanks for watching the channel. And I hope you stay safe, be prepared, always think ahead. And for now, y'all, Serious Survivor out.